Hello, Playful Eco Warriors, and welcome to another episode of Climate for Fun, the podcast that turns climate change into a laughing matter. Here is Antonio Salituro, climate scientist, writer, and comedian. I'm thrilled to have Beth Osnes with me today. Beth is an associate professor of theater and environmental studies at the University of Colorado. Welcome, Beth, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks a lot. Ready to make climate change some fun?
Yes, I am.
Cool. And I can't wait for your comedy sketch, which is going to be soon.
Great.
But before getting to that, I wanted to ask you a few questions if you are happy with that. Yeah. Okay. So you wrote a book called Performance for Resilience, Engaging Youth on Energy and Climate Through Music, Movement and Theater. That sounds a lot of fun, but how would you achieve that?
How I achieved that is I took climate science and I anthropomorphized a few of the major players and put them into a play and made it into pretty much a musical. That the first half of the musical was written by myself, choreographed by a New York choreographer, composed by an incredible musician who's a Grammy-winning musician.
Wow.
And then we created this really fun, engaging story of the last 300 million years of how fossil fuels were formed, how the Industrial Revolution started using them so profusely, how that emission started impacting the climate. And we left it at that kind of climactic point where these changes were being made and what was going to be the solution. And then each place that I toured it to around the world, the young people there were charged with, they were led in creating the answer to these questions, the second half, which was, what are local solutions to climate change? Okay. And each group made it, specific to wherever they were.
Yeah.
And then there was a final song at the end, which of course you need in any good musical.
Yeah.
That gets everybody happy and singing and kind of strengthens your resolve to act on these issues that you spoke about in the play. Okay. So it was meant to really give people a fun time. But the thing that we find is that research shows that embodying concepts is actually beneficial for learners. So by having young people dressed in these green morph suits with leafy slashes, portraying ancient plants and animals, that they understand then when they get covered by this big brown sheet and that compresses them for millions of years, that they become fossil fuels. By embodying that, they start to understand what a long time frame it is to produce these fossil fuels. And then what happens when we release all the energy of those many years of suns into the atmosphere in such a short amount of time. So they really start to embody the concepts and really start to understand the science and the social issues connected to the science.
That's good. That's good learning, to be honest. Is there any video?
And they have fun doing it because they're in their bodies. It's just super fun to be disruptive and grinding your hips while you're doing it.
Yeah, you feel it more, I think. You empathize with it, the environment. But is there any video of this online?
Oh, yeah. If you go to InsideTheGreenhouse.org is my website. And if you go to How to Act Up and then go to Shine, the name of the musical is Shine.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out. I'll definitely check it out. I knew your website.
It's really good. There's all the info in the world about putting on your own musical. You can call me for advice or encouragement, or
cool.
I'll lend you the costumes, whatever you need.
Nice. Is the new Mamma Mia,
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Definitely.
Cool. Nice. All right. Next question is, between 2016 and 2018, you ran a project called Standup for Climate Change.
Yes, so, it's still going now.
Oh, it's still going on, yeah? Okay,
oh, yeah.
Cool. Okay, cool. So as part of this initiative, basically undergrad students turn into climate comedians, right? So
yes.
I got two questions. So first, how did you come up with this idea in the first place? And second,
go ahead.
For it. No, it's secondly, would that have been the main outcomes of this project so far? If you can share something.
Great. So where did we get this idea for this project to take a class that we teach that's mostly environmental studies seniors? This is kind of a capstone course. Okay. And they showed up and it was called Creative Climate Communication. Yeah. And, they're thinking they might be writing some op-eds or something like that. And we say, no, by the time you're done with this class, you're going to be performing live stand-up comedy or sketch comedy in front of a live audience of your friends.
That's great.
And at first they were terrified, they were excited, some dropped the class, others just like hoped for the best. And we really supported them. You know, it's not like, you know, there's certain things are reliably funny. Sexual innuendo is reliably funny. Reliably funny.
Yeah.
You know, anthropomorphization, exaggeration.
Yeah.
All you had to do is pick your issue and apply one of these things that makes it funny. And they were able to achieve it, you know, and a lot of coaching, a lot of working with them, and a lot of guest artists coming in, but they really were able to have a session with their friends in a theater that holds about 250 people.
Wow.
Packed house, everybody's excited. They do the show, and what comes of this is that for 2 hours, a bunch of young people are engaging with issues of climate change while having fun. And it might not solve global warming, but what it does is it says, I can engage in this issue without getting overwhelmed with depression or anxiety or fear or shame.
Yeah.
You know, so it starts to associate positive emotions with engagement with climate.
Yeah, that's key, to be honest. I mean, and then that's what
it's just
comedy
kept
does.
growing. You know, we've gotten support from the Argosy Foundation. So, I mean, they found us and just said, hey, we're so sick of people yelling at each other about climate. What would you do if we gave you $25,000? And we're like, okay, we'll do climate comedy coast to coast. So during COVID, we had professional comedians who were largely out of work co-creating climate comedy with our students who were really experts in the content area with the comedians who are experts at being funny. And they created these shows, and we had it launched online the first year. And then we just continued doing it. We're doing it this year too, having our students come to the task of co-creating climate comedy with professional comedians coast to coast in the US and even in London too. And then having those comedians perform it. And then that's a great training regiment for our students to come up to speed in creating their own climate comedy too.
Real world training, I would say. So any big names? I mean, many.
Well, you know, we have Chuck Nice, who is Ben Glebe in LA. Cool. You know, there are people who are really making a living out there doing it. Chuck Nice does he's on Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Cool.
And he's like, you know, really committed to the issue of climate change and addressing it through climate comedy.
Nice.
So he's been a longtime partner and dear friend.
Nice. Sounds good. Well, it is great for students, to be honest. I would do it myself if I could, you know, go back in time.
Come on over.
Well, I'm thinking about it,
Okay, good.
Right. So, well, talking about comedy, not all types of comedy are created equal, yeah? So not all of them work well in climate communication. Well, for example, satire might make people feel ashamed and put them off from taking any action. Instead, you suggest going for good-natured comedy. So by that, did you mean a kind of over-polite English humor or what? Can you define it?
So this is great. So what I was trying to do is not be prescriptive in saying this is the one type of comedy you should use in addressing climate, but rather saying so much of the climate comedy that we experience is satire. It's late night television. It's always got a target. It's always taking aim at someone else's hypocrisy or stupidity. And that has its purpose. That is a good thing to have because it is a great way to, you know, keep people accountable to their behavior. But I'm saying, let's diversify. What happens? Like, let's be sure that we're not actually going backwards when we're doing climate comedy, that we're not actually, you know, doing more damage than good. I think sometimes there's a great, like, you know, but anytime you're going to do a job, you want to pick the right tool. So sometimes humor, which is more about, you know, kind of like acknowledging our shared foibles, where we all kind of like chuckle and kind of go, oh yeah, we really, you know, and this idea of good-natured comedy is that it's like, it's kind in intent. It acknowledges that we've all got these foibles and that we're all trying to, you know, be better people. And I'm not saying that it's the one type of comedy that should only be used for climate. Rather saying, let's diversify beyond just satire. So that we have these other things, and let's be mindful about what are we actually doing with this comedy? Like, you can do comedy where you can actually depress people more, and you could be super funny. There's a lot of funny humor that is really depressing.
True.
And that could actually just take the wind right out of your sails for action. So let's just be mindful of what we're doing. And
Cool.
I always like to put it to the students, like I don't censor them. They can use as much swearing as they want, but we talk about it. Like if you swear too much, it just comes off as crass. And then when you really want to use a good F-bomb, it doesn't have any power anymore.
Yeah.
So like, save it up and use just one F-bomb, and then it's like got a punch when you use it. But if you're using them all the time, so like really handing it back to the students and back to the people creating it to say, there's no rules in art, but let's be thoughtful. Let's be smart about how we're doing this.
Yeah, no offense for anybody. That's the main thing, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes it's great to offend people.
Right.
I don't any rule. I say, okay, then what happens when we break that rule?
Yeah, that's true. Well, okay. So you said also that most of the comedy resides in our body, and we need to bring the genius of the entire body to solve the climate crisis. So this reminds me of a PhD topic I came across recently. So it was about exploring the potential of flatulence as a self-defense mechanism. But I think it's not what you meant, right?
Oh, no, that's perfect. I love that.
Okay.
Flatulence is perfect because involuntary bodily response to the buildup of gas within the intestines, and it is reliably funny. It like humbles anybody. It's so funny you say that, because there was one time at the Conference of World Affairs here at the University of Colorado, I was invited to do this thing with comedy, and I did it with my students, and it just so turns out that a lot of really old people came to the show. They were so offended by what my students were doing. And I was proud of my students. I thought they were doing great work. One woman, to show her disgust with what we were doing at this important conference on world affairs, gets up and goes to walk out as just as a message of like, this is terrible. Okay. She goes to walk out, and as she's walking out, she rips the biggest fart you've ever heard. And it was just so perfect. I was like, case in point. Like, we are all subject to this, so we have to like acknowledge comedy. Anyway, I just feel like, we experience the environment and we impact the environment through our bodies. Yeah. And we enjoy and savor and like feel the environment through our bodies. We are animals. Yeah. And anytime we're not grounded, it's like if you're listening to a singer and they're not really connected to their center and they're singing, you're like, I don't know. I don't really feel it. And then if somebody's connected to their body, it's like a lived experience. You just feel it, and you get inspired. You want to follow it. And I think that if our COP talks were being conducted by people who were in their bodies, living the real lived experiences of the impacts of climate, we'd have very different kinds of climate talks. Yeah, I just feel like this whole body thing, like, comedy's perfect for this, because a really good, authentic reaction to comedy is not an intentional, polite chuckle like, oh, it's more like an involuntary, like, rupture that explodes from your body, like, and that's like, it's like a fart, like laughing like a fart. It's like, it's an involuntary response. And when people are united together and have that, it's contagious. They start to feel it. And if we could do this together and it feels good, what else could we do together? We could solve the climate crisis. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, at the end of the day, it's body language and body sounds. Yeah, cool. So I was reading a post you wrote on Medium, and I found out that family planning, it's just crazy for me, to be honest. I didn't know the family planning is part of the third most impactful solution for reversing global warming. So even more impactful than solar energy. That's to me, wow, that's big. That's big. So now I've always considered raincoats to be useful, especially if you live in the UK, but I would have thought they could be more sustainable than sunshine. Anyway, what does a climate-friendly family planning look like to you, rather than raincoats? I think that we could. Great, thank you. Climate-friendly family planning. I just wonder if maybe we could use this climate solution as a way to come up with some good rhymes. Like we could say something like, love the glove, or give the pill a free refill. Or we could maybe say, put your buck on the interrupted phone. So that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's nice. That's cool. Yeah, to be honest, I didn't know, though, the importance of family planning, to be honest. Yeah, I didn't think about it. Yeah. I know. I mean, cool. The best thing you can do is just, build a family in a non-traditional way. That's the best thing you can do for the planet.
Okay, meaning that, I mean, like being more aware.
Like, I'm the youngest of 10 kids.
Yeah.
So for me, family, if you didn't have a baseball team at any given moment, like, you didn't really have a family.
Yeah.
So I married, my husband, JP, and we had 2 biological kids, the replacement. So I replaced him, I replaced me. And then I'm thinking like, and then he didn't want to have any more. He was like, no, I think for the planet, I shouldn't have any more. And I was like, okay, I get that intellectually, but in my heart, I want more kids. Yeah. And so we ended up adopting, we ended up having foster kids.
Okay. That's good. That's a good choice.
We've got this feeling of a really big family.
Yeah.
And we only biologically gave birth to 2. And
I think
it's probably the most impactful climate action I've done in my entire life.
Yeah, I think I guess it is on the personal level, definitely. And, it's a good compromise, to be honest, because, you want to have more kids, but then go for adoption or, fostering, etc. That I agree 100%. Cool. So at the University of Colorado, you co-teach a course called Creative Climate Communication, yeah?
Yes.
So I thought to let your creativity juices flow. So if you were to convince students that this is the best course they'll ever take, what would you tell them? Well, of course, no climate doom talk allowed, yeah? No.
Okay. No.
No kidding. Yeah.
I will say, what is the use of learning all that you're learning about climate and environmental degradation and all of these policy things if you can't communicate it to people in a way that they're open to receiving it? Yeah. What is the use of knowing it if you can't communicate it in a way that will be heard and understood and welcomed and integrated into life itself? And I would also say, when else are you going to get an invitation to do stand-up comedy? When are you going to get bragging rights to tell your prodigy that you indeed got up on a stage, took a mic in hand with an audience, bright lights in your eyes, spotlight on you, and you performed climate comedy? Yeah. We archive this. We have each student's performance up on our website. They can prove it. I just feel like, where else are you going to get that opportunity? Where else are you going to be able to work with professional comedians to help them create content that they're going to be doing on stages in New York City and Los Angeles? Where else are you going to get to do that? And take care of one of the hugest crises this planet has known, reversing global warming.
Yeah, you convinced me. I'm on board.
Okay, good.
That's good. I mean, honestly, I never came across a unique opportunity such as this. If someone wants to do, it's a mix of art and science. It's great. To be honest.
Well, it's taking off because we always have we only have room for 40 students, and we always are turning away over 20 students.
Really,
who want to be in the class and we can't fit in.
Well, okay. Maybe you will expand, in the next
maybe
years, hopefully. Cool. So, talking about this, what are your top 3 tips for someone who is thinking about becoming a climate comedian or communicator, other than sign up for your course, of course? Yeah.
Okay, great. I would say relate climate comedy to something that you're an expert in, and by this I don't mean by books or anything like that, but what do you know so well? So it might be if you're a mother, you might if you're a mom, you might know babies. I did a comedy piece on kids aren't cute. I was trying to show mothers, and I said, kids aren't cute. It's only the little that's cute. Think of it. A 6-foot newborn would not be cute.
Well,
so what do you know? Relate climate change to what you know and love. If it's skiing, if it's fishing, if it's whatever it might be, car mechanics, whatever it is. Yeah. And then I would say, fully commit. A really stupid idea, once it's fully committed to, comes back full around circle and becomes cool again. So I think that the key to comedy is commitment.
Yeah.
Get something that's clever and then fully commit to it.
Okay.
Fully committing to a ridiculous idea. Fully committed to a ridiculous idea. And then I think the other thing is just the only way to improve is to do it before you're ready. Get it in front of people. Whether it's your boyfriend or your mother or whoever it is, just get it in front of people.
Yeah.
And that's your best teacher. Because comedy gives you immediate feedback. It relies on other people. And it won't always be the same. Each I've done, toured work, and it's like one audience thinks I'm hilarious and the next one sits there politely and kind of like shuffles their feet. And it's like, it's a living thing. There's no guarantees. That's why it's so risky and so fun.
That's true. That's true. I mean, in the end of the day, you need to get out of your comfort zone and then try your luck. Try your luck, because you might come across a difficult audience or what you're not expecting.
You have to be live on your feet and think, okay, how do I reach them then? I can't stay with what I had planned.
You need to have quick thinking as well. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Okay, cool. So, we divert a little bit here. We digress a little bit. So, I guess some of your students might get involved with climate strikes, I guess. In the UK, Just Stop Oil, I don't know if you heard about that, but it's making a lot of noise and mess too. Over the last 4 months, they threw a can of tomato soup on Vincent van Gogh's sunflowers and glued themselves on Leonardo da Vinci, The Last Supper. Now, is it just the UK food is rubbish, or US climate activists use the same tactic? I'm just wondering. So seriously, I'd like to have your view on youngster climate activism.
Great. Great. I think that these things where people are like outraged, like, oh, why would you ruin a great work of art? And it's like, you could look the same thing as like Rocky Mountain National Park. Like, why would you ruin a great work of art, which is this national park? So it's like, I feel like if I were one of those artists, like if I were Vincent van Gogh, and if I've heard that young people were, abusing my paintings as a way of bringing attention to climate change, I would be really grateful that I was still relevant enough that I could be in dialogue with this political action in order to bring attention to climate change. The fact that we're talking about it, the fact that other people are talking about it, brings into question, what is the value of all these things that we're holding on to so dearly if the planet's going to go, where we can't exist as a species? So I think the actions ask some really vital questions that I think are really cool. And I think the artists the creators of these art, if they understood the context, they'd be thrilled that they were in this conversation.
Yeah, I agree on that, to be honest. It's about perspective, isn't it? If we look at the overall picture, but also the tomato can soup, I think they knew that there was a protective layer, so it was very smart. It was very smart. Yeah. Anyway, so before your comedy bit, I'll go 2 more questions. So if you could tell me one thing about climate change that makes you laugh. No, yeah.
Okay. One thing that climate change that makes me laugh is, I think the thing that, and it's like kind of a sad laughter, is that everybody, when you talk about climate change, everybody talks about the most pathetic kind of recycling. Like they think, okay, well, I recycle. And it's just not really the conversation anymore. Like we all kind of know that, like, it's the use in the first place. It's the industrial use. It's the pushing of plastics through fossil fuel industry. Like it's just, I think that there's a sad chuckle to be like, oh, folks, it's not about recycling anymore. Yeah, we got to get a little smarter about this. So that would be my kind of sad laughter about climate change. And then the other thing that makes me happy laughter is this idea that, like, food, which is so glorious, is like if we take on reducing food waste and take on a mostly plant-based diet, combining those two, that's like the top climate solution for reversing global warming. So that's like, that makes me laugh with happiness, because that's just cool. That's in my reach. I get that it's supposed to be systemically too, but I just feel like I have agency. It's something I enjoy, getting creative with plant-based food. It's like a party. People are figuring it out together. It's not militant. It's just like, hey, let's do the best we can. And that makes me happy. Yeah,
it makes you feel like you can do something about it. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And it becomes you. Like, if you are what you eat, you are the solution.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, cool. So, and then the other question is, tell me one fun thing that people can do to fight climate change.
One fun thing.
Like, it's climate comedy, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I think that climate comedy, of course, but I just feel like eating together, coming together and celebrating plant-based food and we did a retreat with the young people. I have a group called Young Women's Voices for Climate. Okay. And we did a retreat up in the Rocky Mountains, and we created this Recipes for Change kind of like cookbook, but it was recipes for joyful activism and literal meals that were plant-based diet meals.
Cool.
And we like ate the food. We did activism together. We made this whole website for, if you go to speak.world, you can find the Recipes for Change website that we did, an online exhibit. And I feel like eating together and making that a celebration of plant-based food is the most fun thing you can do for climate.
Cool. Yeah, no, definitely. I need to check this recipe because I'm trying to be mostly plant-based. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And it's great when you don't get militant about it. Like if you kind of do it like, because I think you give up if you make it like an all or nothing thing. But if you make it a yearning, like I'm moving towards this, then it's much more likely that you'll stay committed.
Cool. Right. So now the floor is yours if you want to perform your comedy bit. Yeah, that would be great.
Bet, I'd love to. So I just really feel like you can't really guide people any farther than you yourself have traveled. So this is a piece that I've performed at a lot of different live performances and things. I changed it up a little bit for you. But this is one of the things I like to explore is anthropomorphizing climate change.
Okay.
So you can just imagine I'm a woman in my 50s standing up here and I say, hey, my name is Climate Change and I am pretty excited. I just signed up for this dating service for social issues. It's called Cupid Cares. Yeah, they're supposed to be pretty good. They match people with social issues. Who do you think introduced Angelina Jolie and human rights? Bill Gates and malaria? Cupid Cares. So I thought maybe they could find a match for me too. Okay, wait. I see a few confused faces in the crowd. Oh my God. Do you guys think I'm still hooked up with Al Gore? With all due respect to Mr. Gore, allow me to say I ended our monogamous relationship for a more open one a while ago. Maybe you've heard rumors of me with Leonardo DiCaprio, Don Cheadle. Maybe they're true. Okay, so why did I sign up? Truth is, I want to meet someone younger. That's why I'm here on this super hip podcast, looking for a match. Okay, I saw that in the front row. You're having old issue gross out reaction. What is climate change doing prowling around on the internet? That issue's been around for like almost 40 years? Oh. But there was a glint in that guy's eye. Kind of a cougar chaser, huh? You like an older issue? But even you might be thinking that I'm kind of a hard date to bring to parties. Admit it. Kind of a Debbie Downer. I try and talk about things besides doom and gloom. But the next thing you know, there I am chatting people up about food scarcity and loss of shorelines. I've been working on being more positive. I try to talk about like the Green New Deal or youth climate strikes. But it's not easy to seem fun when you know that everybody thinks you're the one who's going to make the human species go extinct, but I'm trying, damn it. Okay, maybe I've got anger management issues. Those reports of violent outbreaks, storms, floods, hurricanes, they're true. I'm working on it. Listen, I'm not perfect. But do you want to know why you should choose me, climate change, as your issue? I've got staying power. I'm faithful. I'm not going to fade away into yesterday's thing. I'm not like that hole in the ozone or One Direction or Facebook. No. I promise to be the defining issue of our times and for decades to come. I might be the best chance you've got at a meaningful relationship with a single issue. In closing, reversing global warming is a huge mountain, and there's only one way to get over it: climate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Amazing. Thanks.
My amazing audience of one.
Yeah, well, you got it. You got it. Yeah, well, hopefully many more.
My live audience of one.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Great. Well, all right. So to finish off, are you ready to test yourself out with my who wants to be climate aware quiz? That's my.
Yes, I'm a little nervous, but go ahead.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right. You just need to answer 3 multiple choice questions. Sorry to disappoint you, but it's not. It's only for the glory. we are in a budget.
That's okay. I'm good. Okay. I like glory.
Right. So first question is. So TV comedy shows are the most carbon-intensive programs of all. So every hour they emit as much CO2 as, and now you got 3 options, yeah? So as much CO2 as 4 ohms electricity used for a year, or as much CO2 as 4 ohms hate-ridden tweets against Netflix password sharing restriction for a year, or as much CO2 as 4 ohms junk food swallowed while watching TV for a year.
I'm going to go with the third option.
Okay, well, it's the funniest probably, but it's not. It was the first one, yeah.
Hey, which one's right?
It's the first one. 4 ohms electricity used for a year.
Very good.
Well, good attempt.
Thank you.
Second question. What is a firenado? Yeah, what is a firenado? A fire aficionado, also known as pyromaniac, or a roasted avocado,
Yes.
or smoke and flames swirled in a tornado-like pattern.
Oh, I'm going to go with the tornado one.
Yeah, it is. You were tempted to go for the roasted avocado, yeah? I knew.
Yes. Very good.
Cool. And the last one, yeah? So, dying from climate-driven disasters is more likely than dying in a terror attack. But how more likely? 1,000 more likely? 1,000 times, more likely? 20,000 times more likely, or I don't care, we're not gonna die anyway.
Okay, I'm going to go for the first one.
First one, no, it's the second one. It's 20,000 times more likely.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy, yeah.
Wow.
It's real. It's a real stat. Okay. Wow. Right. That's the end of this Climate for Fun episode. Beth, thank you so much for your fun contribution and performance.
Been on.
Honestly, I loved it. And of course, thanks to whoever tuned in today. And next episode will be in a month as usual. In the meantime, remember to fight climate change one laugh at a time. Ciao.
Ciao. Thank you.
Ciao. Thanks a lot.